Ayo Dosunmu and Rudy Gobert drove a Timberwolves win over the Raptors for the Wolves' fifth straight win, plus Ant leading a huge third-quarter surge. Next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy weekend. I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Daily Locked On Wolves podcast, and this is the postgame podcast following the Timberwolves' fifth consecutive win, their eighth in their last 9 tries, beating the Toronto Raptors, more or less blowing them out, ultimately winning by 8 points on Thursday night. But it wasn't easy sledding. Early in the game, things were a little bit rough, and it took some key bench performances, some surviving Jaden McDaniels, some severe foul trouble, which we haven't seen a whole lot of from Jaden this year. That came up. Anthony Edwards got out to a bit of a slow start offensively, but it all came together, and the Timberwolves built a 16-point lead in the second half and ultimately won this game going away. So we'll talk about how that happened. I want to talk a lot about Ayo Dosunmu and Rudy Gobert early. I've got my 3 big things we're going to hit, and that is certainly one of them. Part of my 3 big things. And then we'll get into individual studs and duds. That's how we'll close the show here today. First, a big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. All right, so coming into the game, outside of Colin Murray-Boyles, the Raptors were healthy. Brandon Ingram was questionable with a thumb injury. He played. He was okay. He wasn't as good as he was the last time these two teams played. The Timberwolves came in healthy, and I believe Randle or Ant, one of them was on the injury report, but everybody played. So this was a pretty good test. And the Wolves have not, believe it or not, this stat doesn't mean that much because obviously the teams have changed dramatically over this period of time, but it's been 22 years since the Timberwolves have beaten the Raptors twice in the same season. They of course only play each other once home, once away because of the Raptors are in the Eastern Conference. I guess I don't know in some of the shortened lockout and COVID shortened years if they played twice or just once. Either way, it's been since the first time the Timberwolves went to the conference finals. The 03-04 season was the last time the Wolves beat the Raptors twice. And Toronto's good this year. I mean, they're going to end up in somewhere in the 4 to 6 range in the Eastern Conference. They're not great. They're not I would argue they're not a top 10 team league wide, but they are a playoff team and they are good. So this is a nice win for the Timberwolves to extend what's now a 5-game win streak, and again, 8 of their last 9. But it didn't start good. The Wolves were actually up by 4 at the end of the first quarter, but Minnesota trailed by as many as 12 points early. It was a very sluggish start. Actually, sluggish maybe isn't the right word. I don't feel like this was a classic, like, Timberwolves get off to a slow start because they're lackadaisical. This was actually just more sloppy offense and the Raptors making shots. I actually thought the defense, there were a couple of missed rotations. There was maybe 2 really bad transition defensive possessions, one that led to a Finch timeout early in the game. But I thought the half-court defense was okay, and I thought the effort level was there. There were a couple of very bad turnovers offensively. Ant had one of them. I think the other might have been Randle. Just miserable turnovers where it's a little bit lazy, a little bit haphazard. And then the Raptors made shots. I mean, like, these dudes were making contested shots early in this game, and Minnesota found themselves down by 12 very early, very quickly. And then in the second quarter, they led by 3 at the end of the first quarter, and it was a tie game at halftime. First half, this is going to get me right into my, and I guess overall, like, I want to do my 3 big things. It was the third quarter surge that put Minnesota up. They got up by 16 late in the fourth, and ultimately we had 3 minutes of garbage time, which the Wolves somehow lost by 8. Which meant the final score was only an 8-point margin, but they were up by more than that before the starters departed. I want to hit my 3 big things. That's what I've often been doing on the postgame pod. I think it's the best way to break this all down. And my first of my 3 big things is Ayo Dosunmu. And specifically, like, if you just look at the box score, like, all right, he had 13 points off the bench, played 27 minutes, which I'm guessing, and I'll look real quick here at his game log, I'm guessing that's the most minutes he's played in a Timberwolves uniform. Well, the reason why he played so many minutes was because Jaden McDaniels got into early foul trouble. That's not true at all. It's like right in line. He's played anywhere from 21 to 30 minutes. So it's like it's a little on the high end, right? Like it's about at the median of where he's played minutes wise. But he got into the game earlier because of the Jaden McDaniels foul trouble. And he was really good early in this game. He was good throughout, but especially early, pushing pace when the Timberwolves were struggling to get offense. Rotationally on defense, he was fantastic. Like, he's obviously not got the size. He doesn't have the length that Jaden McDaniels has, but he plays hard and he rotates smartly. So the combination of Dosunmu and Donte DiVincenzo defensively early in this game especially was fantastic. The Timberwolves had 10 steals in this game. DiVincenzo had 2 and Dosunmu had 3. Nobody else had more than 1. So those two guys combined for 5, half of the Wolves' 10 steals. And it was, I want to focus more on Dosunmu because I think what he does pushing the pace offensively, DiVincenzo kind of does the same thing, but DiVincenzo does it for profit at the 3-point line or to pass to somebody. He'll dunk if he's got a wide open fast break by himself. But Dosunmu's trying to get to the rack every single time. And he'll knock down threes as a trailer sometimes if for some he's usually not behind the play. When the ball rotates back to him in the half court. But in transition, Ayo Dosunmu's trying to get to the basket. And his aggression trying to get downhill was awesome. There was a play in the second half where, and I thought the FanDuel Sports Network broadcast did a really good job at highlighting this, and Jim Peterson, of course. But you could see Ayo Dosunmu, it was in a pick and roll situation, and he could tell that Gobert's defender was on him, and he essentially had 2 on him. But because of where the trail because of where the trail defender was, it was going to be a hard thing to try and weave the ball over to Rudy Gobert. So Dosunmu, I'm actually pretty sure he missed it intentionally. He just got it up off the glass. It was above the square, threw it up there way too hard for it to actually go in, and it barely grazed front rim, and it was a perfect carom for Rudy Gobert to get a putback dunk on it. I'm actually pretty confident I'm sure that it went down as a shot attempt, but I'm pretty confident Dosunmu intentionally missed that high off the backboard so that Gobert could get the tip slam. It's that sort of, again, getting downhill, and I'm mostly making this point about transition, but he does it in the half court as well, making things happen for profit for himself and for others. And that isn't always consistent. Like, Randle gets a lot of assists and he passes the ball, but it's more as a high post kind of hub than it is as, like, when Randle drives, you know what he's doing. Unless he's like dead to rights. He's not passing that ball out. He's not looking for a cutter. He's not dumping the ball to Gobert 9 times out of 10. Dosunmu's doing it for a layup, and he will get to the rim, or he's going to find somebody else to pass it to. And he actually, we've talked about this a lot, doesn't actually shoot the ball all that well at the rim, at least this season, but he gets there a lot in transition and in the half court. And his minutes in this game, especially because of the foul trouble to Jaden McDaniels early, he picked up 2 fouls in like under 4 minutes, like 3.5 minutes. And he picked up a third very quickly in the third quarter, and then a fourth pretty quickly in the third quarter. Because of that, Dosunmu's minutes were highlighted even more so. He played the most minutes of anybody off the bench in this game, which was fairly well balanced scoring-wise for Minnesota, and minutes-wise, he tied for 4th in minutes played on the Timberwolves. And his offensive aggression, his ability to get downhill, the disruption he causes defensively, his crisp rotations were huge in this game. And again, underscored, highlighted, illuminated, really, because of Jaden McDaniels' foul trouble. I've got 2 more of my 3 big things to get to. We're going to talk Rudy Gobert, and then I want to talk about something I mentioned a minute ago, a balanced offense. And yeah, included in that, we'll talk about the Anthony Edwards-led surge in the third quarter, because that's obviously where the tides turned for good in this game. The monster dunk that no doubt you've seen on social media by now. But we'll talk about the third quarter surge as well as Gobert's huge game. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay that you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever the case might be. We're headed into, I think there's like the Gophers have like 1 conference game left, so I'm sure that's the same across the board. And then we're into conference tournament play. And then it's obviously the big tournament. we're right there. You can mix spreads, totals, player props, etc., to match how you see the slate playing out. This is a fun week, and then, or I guess this weekend into conference tournaments next week is one of the most fun weeks of the year. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe or go bold. Just ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Reminder, you can get Locked On Wolves ad-free with the Everydayer Club. Plus, you can get members-only Discord access along with being part of the Everydayer Club. I'm in there daily in the Discord chat talking all things Wolves. It's a ton of fun. There's a few of us in there that have been in there every day over the last 6 weeks or so. And again, ad-free Locked On Wolves episodes. So you can find the link in the show notes or go to lockedonwolves.supercast.com to learn how you can sign up and be part of the Everydayer Club. All right. So my second of my big three things. It'd be easy to just say Rudy Gobert's performance, and I am going to talk about that in depth. But I'm going to also say Rudy Gobert's involvement in the Timberwolves offense and the willingness of some of these guys to pass the ball to him. And it's the newcomers that are doing it. And maybe it's the Rudy honeymoon where they haven't seen him fumble passes a ton. I don't know. Obviously, Kyle Anderson has some history of playing with Rudy Gobert, a couple of years worth, and has history. The spat that led to Gobert's play-in game suspension a couple of years ago, 3 years ago now. But both Kyle Anderson and Ayo Dosunmu got multiple. I think maybe Dosunmu did twice, but certainly combined, they had assists to Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert was 7 of 8 shooting from the field. He had 18 points in this game. And Rudy's been just overall more involved in the Timberwolves offense. I know he had a couple single-digit games before this, but prior to that, Gobert had been in double figures in 7 straight games, which is a pretty long stretch for him. In fact, pretty sure, it was the longest stretch this season. He'd been in double figures in 7 straight. The last 3, he hasn't scored a whole lot. And then, in fact, he only had just 2 field goal attempts against Memphis. He was in a little bit of foul trouble, which is unusual for him. But he had 18 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks, and a steal in this game against Toronto. He was a monster. And I think what stood out to me was that the Timberwolves were actually looking to pass him the ball. And there were at least 2 possessions where Julius Randle should have, and he didn't. One, he shot the ball. The other, he tried to throw a skip pass to the opposite slot, and it was a dangerous pass. And I actually do think it got stolen, or maybe it was, I can't remember. I think it was maybe a 3 that got blocked because the dude wasn't quite as open. I can't remember who it was. But there were multiple bad, like Randle just dumped the ball to Rudy. And by the way, this is an aside. There was a national headline, I forget which ESPN show, was talking about Gobert's comment when they signed Kyle Anderson. I think it was from Monday or Tuesday this week. And he said, I'll just be honest, we're bringing somebody in who will actually pass the ball. And the headline was like basically calling out Ant. That's not what Rudy was doing. He wasn't, first of all, he didn't call anybody out. It was very misleading. The Chiron on TV on ESPN, like he wasn't calling anybody out by name, first of all. Second of all, I guarantee you that was more of a reference to Julius Randle than it was Anthony Edwards. I guarantee it. Julius Randle's been really good this year, and he does have a lot of assists and an assist rate higher than Ant's. But Ant has the ball in his hands a lot more, and he's a more efficient scorer than Julius Randle. So anyway, that's an aside. But in this particular game, Rudy made himself available. He made himself open. He had a couple really nice passes himself. I mean, he had 5 assists in this game. That's a lot of assists for Rudy Gobert. In fact, scrolling through his game log, I'm pretty sure it's a season high. It is a season high. He has multiple games with 4 assists. Oh, he had 5 assists on November 1st against Charlotte. So it's one of 2 games this season that Rudy's had 5 assists. He was really good in the short roll. He had the one really good one where I think DiVincenzo knocked the ball away. Gobert scooped it up and threw a crazy one-handed hook pass over 2 Raptors defenders and hit DiVincenzo in stride on the fast. It was either DiVincenzo or Dosunmu in stride on the fast break for an easy bucket. Like, this was one of the better, well-rounded, all-around Rudy Gobert games you're going to see. And the other piece of it is the availability around the rim, the willingness of his teammates to pass him the ball, and then also what he did with the ball in his hands. He did go 7 for 8 from the field, and he went 4 of 6 at the free throw line. Another side note here. I'm really hopeful that we see a little bit of a progression to the mean for Rudy Gobert. He's like 50% on free throws this year, and for his career, he's like well over 60%. Not good, but like much, much, much better. This is a weird outlier for him career-wise in terms of free throws. Now, I don't think he's going to shoot 75% the rest of the year, but could we at least see this thing more in line with where he shot for his career? That would be awesome. Maybe this is the start of that, because there's a big difference between 4 for 6 and 3 for 6. The number of times that Rudy gets to the free throw line, like it really does matter. And again, he's been getting the ball a little bit more frequently. Teammates have been more willing overall this season to pass him the ball, and here, especially in this game. But I thought Gobert was extremely disruptive on both ends of the floor. Also, how many times, and like, I loved Alan Horton on the Timberwolves broadcast on FanDuel Sports Network called out the fact that teams keep trying to take Gobert in isolation. And I don't know how many times I've talked about this on the show. It's been a little while now. It's hilarious. And I haven't pulled the numbers recently. Perhaps I'll do this for Monday's show. But like, for a long time this season, Gobert was literally the best isolation defender in the NBA. And he might still be. I don't know. I got to pull it. In this game, I promise you, the Raptors were like 0 for 4 going one-on-one at Rudy Gobert. He's a phenomenal defender. He's a 4-time defensive player of the year. And these dudes think it's a good idea to take him one-on-one. It's just hilarious. Just because Rudy sometimes looks clumsy with the ball in his hands, it doesn't mean he's not a good defender. I don't get it. He's a 4-time defensive player of the year for a reason. These guards think that they pull him out on the perimeter and they can pull him into isolation and beat him. It doesn't happen. And it's funny because, like, how often do we see neverminds, right? We see guys that get the ball, they're cutting, or they're in the fast break, they're in secondary break, and they get into the paint and they see Gobert and they're like, nope. And it's not to the level that we see now with Wemby, of course, but we still see guys do it where they're like, nope, never mind. And they dribble out of the paint. But at the same time, we see people in the half court that are like, all right, I'll take this mismatch. It's not a mismatch, guys. It just isn't. I mean, please keep doing it, but it's not a mismatch. Rudy Gobert is going to lock you down 75% of the time. Like, his numbers are crazy in isolation. And the Raptors kept doing it in this game. Part of the reason why they don't have a good offense, I guess. I don't know. They're a good defensive team. Their offense is not good. We saw why. And Gobert, even not in those situations, protecting the rim, given the opposing bit, like, who did he give the business the other night? I mean, Valanciunas in the Denver game on Sunday. He was really good on Tuesday. But in this game, like, Jakob Poeltl's really good. He did not stand a prayer against Rudy Gobert. I mean, he was a minus 23 in 29 minutes. You could look at the bench bigs, Mamukalashvili, which is almost, well, anyway, I have Nicholas Chvidaskili in my head, who of course played like 20 years ago briefly for the Timberwolves, but he wasn't good in this game. Like, the Wolves did an awesome job against the Raptors bigs, and that's a huge credit to Rudy Gobert. He was phenomenal in this game. My third of my 3 big things in this game was the Timberwolves' overall steady, balanced offensive attack. You go back to Sunday's win over Denver, and that was the case in Sunday's win. Tuesday was obviously Ant scoring, 41 and leading the charge, and it was a very top-heavy offense. Sunday was not. Sunday against the Nuggets was a lot like this. You had, 6 of 8 guys that played in double figures. This game wasn't quite that balanced, but actually there was 5 of 8 guys that played rotation minutes, scored in double figures. Slow-mo being the only one that didn't, and I think, that's going to be kind of a regular occurrence, which, by the way, he played well. Slow-mo had 4 assists in this game, 3 boards, 4 points. I know he had a negative plus-minus, but I thought he played well, and I thought he was pretty good in terms of running the offense in the 15 minutes he was on the floor. I guess the Wolves had 9 rotation guys because Bones played rotation minutes too. So in this game, it was 5 of 9 rotation guys that scored in double figures, 6 of 9, for the Wolves. So all that to say, and Jaden had 8 points and he only played 21 minutes because of the foul trouble. But the Wolves had a balanced offense. We talked already about the Wolves looking to pass the ball to Gobert. He was second on the team in scoring. Randle still got his. He had 17 and 8 in this game, plus 4 assists, 16 from Dante, 13 from Dosunmu, and 12 from Reid, who took or I guess his arm got pinned going on the floor for a jump ball in the second half, and it looked bad, but then he came back in the game. He's, of course, got the shoulder issue he's been dealing with all year. But the balanced offense, the bench playing a big role in that. We talked about Dosunmu helping to paper over those Jaden McDaniels minutes when he was in foul trouble early and often in this game. But specifically this balanced offense for Minnesota, Ant only had 12 shot attempts. Like, he scored 22 points on 12 shots in this game and only got to the line for 2 free throws. He was 5 of 8 outside the arc, 3 assists for Ant. He did have 4 turnovers, but a balanced offensive attack. We got to talk about the third quarter. and the surge the Wolves had in the third quarter. We'll do that here in a second, and then we'll do studs and duds. But this was a third quarter run that propelled the Timberwolves to a double-digit lead, and it really centered around Anthony Edwards, and that was the stamp, the mark that he left on this game, when otherwise he had a relatively quiet offensive night, except for his dunk in the third quarter, which was anything but quiet. So we'll talk about the third quarter and Ant's performance here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. With 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy, there's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. My number one pick is Strawberry Watermelon. I love both flavors, so why not put them together? It's both sweet and tart. You get both, elements of that flavor profile. It's a candy-like flavor. It's the ultimate flavor duo. Some flavors are just made to go together. Strawberry and watermelon can be added to that list of delicious pairings. My number two pick is going to be tried and true, just straight watermelon. I told you, I like watermelon. It's a delicious flavor. Anything watermelon flavored, and especially 5 Hour Energy. It's cool, crisp, and of course, caffeinated as well. Juicy watermelon, candy-style flavor. Watermelon candy is fantastic with subtle, clean fruit notes. If I had to have a sleeper pick, it would be peach mango. Two more flavors I really like by themselves, so why not combine them? They're fantastic together. You get the ripe peach flavor on your first sip. The mango adds tropical depth and sweetness with overall a smooth, rounded fruit profile. So again, number one pick, strawberry watermelon. Number two pick, watermelon. And the sleeper pick, I think is underrated all the time, is peach mango. 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar. And of course, there's lots of upcoming flavor innovations planned on top of strawberry watermelon, peach mango, and all the other of the, 18 different flavors that they've got. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Again, 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is also brought to us by our friends at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the 1 minute I'm talking to you about Indeed, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All right, let's talk about that third quarter surge that was keyed by Anthony Edwards. So Minnesota was tied at halftime, down 12 early, pushed ahead at the end of the first quarter. Raptors go back up in the second quarter. We get to halftime and it's tied. Early in the third quarter, the Raptors are continuing to be frisky, and it's kind of a one-possession game either way. The Wolves are actually down as late as, I think the last time they trailed was like the 8.5-minute mark of the third quarter. Ingram gets a dunk. The Wolves are down by a point. Then Ant scores. Then Jaden McDaniels makes a bucket. DiVincenzo makes some free throws. The Timberwolves build a little bit of a lead. It gets up to 5 points. And then Anthony Edwards just detonates. Massive two-handed dunk over RJ Barrett, stares him down, gets in his face a little bit. Barrett gives him a nudge, which, by the way, I thought the officiating was a bit spotty, especially early in this game. They did a great job not over officiating that moment. And by that, I mean they did nothing, which is great. Let it happen. Let the highlight happen. Don't get in the middle, create something out of nothing. Don't create a hold me back moment for either team. This was great. It got to flex on him. Barrett got to hit him, kind of nudge him back, ran up the floor, and it spurred the Timberwolves on, and that was that. The Wolves are up by 7. A little bit of a back and forth after that, but it was really the energy in the building. Naz hits a 3. I think that was the one after the crazy Gobert. Gobert gets the offensive rebound after a missed shot from Ant. He dribbles between his legs in traffic with two guys around him. Gobert does, and then slings a pass to Naz for a deep 3, pushes the Wolves up by 10. And then Ayo hits a three. Now it's a 13-point game. Naz gets a dunk the next time down. It's a 15-point game. Gobert gets a big block. And at that point, like, you're up 15 points, you get the under 3 timeout in the third quarter, and they essentially put the game away. They pushed it to 16 a couple different times, including late in the fourth, before the last 3 minutes of garbage time saw the margin go from 16 to 8. But it was spurred by the ant dunk. Gobert with the crazy offensive rebound, dribble move, pass, and then a block a couple of possessions later. Threes from Naz Reid and Ayo Dosunmu. Just that lineup was awesome, which was basically starters minus McDaniels plus Dosunmu, I believe. Oh, and Naz Reid, I guess, was in the game, so no Randle either. But that was an awesome stretch. It's what really set the tone for the rest of the game, and it's what propelled the Timberwolves to what ultimately was a fairly easy win when we got down to it in the fourth quarter. So the dunk was awesome. Go watch it if you haven't. I love two-handed power dunks on guys. Like, you just don't see it that often. You don't see guys that are that explosive, and obviously Anthony Edwards is. It was legit. Nothing really else from like I want to do individual studs and duds. Everything else was pretty insignificant statistically. It was that third quarter run that pushed the Wolves ahead. Nothing else really stands out in terms of, like, they gave up too many offensive rebounds to Toronto, which I was a little bit worried about. The Raptors had 11, but ultimately wasn't a massive deal. Points off turnovers. Minnesota had 11 first half turnovers, and the Raptors, there was 1 point early in the game. I think Toronto was averaging more than 2 points per Timberwolves turnover. Like, their points per possession off Wolves turnovers was over 2 points. I think it was like 16 points on 7 turnovers or something insane. Which obviously just means they're getting a bucket or a three every time the Timberwolves turn it over. The Wolves cleaned it up, to their credit, as sloppy as it was early, which I talked about at the top of the show today. They only had 2 second half turnovers, and one, I think, was garbage time. Like, they had 1 turnover in legitimate second half minutes, which is awesome. Awesome. Excuse me. They finished the game with just 13 total turnovers. So that was a really good thing for the Wolves. Quickly, studs and duds. Obviously, Anthony Edwards, key in that third quarter run, leading the team with 22 points on just 12 shots. He hit 5 threes on only 8 attempts from deep, and was 3 of 4 on twos, 5 of 8 on threes, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He did have 4 turnovers, but again, a couple were early. The turnovers have gone up for Ant here of late, something to kind of keep monitoring. They were very low early in the season, but part of it is, I think he is trying to make a concerted effort to be, well, actually, that's not true. My concern here, and this is a deeper dive for another day, is that Ant went from trying to be a quote-unquote point guard who then sometimes went off and scored, and now he's thinking, I'm going to score all the time, and then passing is a last resort, and he finds himself either in a tough situation where he's doubled, tripled, bottled up, and trying to make a really tough pass, and he turns the ball over, or he tries to get off the ball early, but he does it lazily, like we saw at least once, maybe twice in this game, where he lazily tries to get off the ball early in the possession and the opponent steals it. It feels like we get one of those a game. Like, he's just got to clean some of ththose up, and he'll be all right. But obviously a really efficient offensive night for him scoring the basketball. Gobert, of course, 18, 12, 5, and 3. Talk about stuffing the stat sheet. And all the never minds, all the isolation possessions where he just dominated the Brandon Ingrams and I want to say Jamal Shed tried it. Like, what are we doing? 18 points on 8 shots, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal. 0 turnovers for Rudy Gobert. And he played a team-high 35 minutes. The dude's a machine. He's awesome. He's been great this year, and he deserves a stud for this game. My third one, it could be Dante. Like, stat line-wise, I thought he was very, very good. I'm going to go with Ayo because I think the energy he injected when Jaden had the early foul trouble and the Wolves were losing by double digits in the first quarter, I think that really matters. And DiVincenzo was part of that, and he was part of the third quarter run. So was Ayo. And I think just given their roles and the expectations for DiVincenzo as a starter, like, I maybe it's unfair, but I think Dosunmu deserves to be highlighted because of what he did off the bench at a critical moment. And I know it was the first quarter, but down double digits early, Jaden in foul trouble, it easily could have gone off the rails. And I thought when Dosunmu brought it and how he brought it was great. Again, 13 points on 11 shots, 1 of 2 on threes, 3 steals, 1 assist, 1 rebound. DiVincenzo had 2 more, he had more assists, more rebounds, more points. He was also very good, and both were a part of that third quarter run. But overall, a really nice game from Dosunmu and honestly for the bench as well. Or bench overall, I should say. Dosunmu, Naz was good. Kyle Anderson, we talked about, was good. I thought, Bones was, if I'm going to do a dud, I guess it would have to be Bones Highland. 3 points on 1 of 5 shooting. He also had a turnover, no assists in 13 minutes, was a minus 14. But that's the Bones experience, right? A team worst minus 14. You're going to have the high points where you need him, like Denver on Sunday, and you're going to have the low points, like 3 points and no assists and a minus 14 in 13 minutes in a game you won anyway. So as long as you can kind of pull that lever, pull the Bones lever when you need it, and he can show up when you need him the most, then yeah, we'll take the Bones experience for the rest of the year. I'm in. All right, that's all I got for you today. The Timberwolves play on Saturday afternoon against Orlando, who, of course, is also an Eastern Conference playoff team, although albeit a disappointing season so far for Orlando, banged up and all that. But it's on Prime Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. We'll have the live postcast with Jack and Luke following on YouTube. Again, live on YouTube following the game. And then if you missed that, the audio will be on the Locked On Wolves feed over the weekend. I will probably do a short show at some point this weekend to talk about that. Maybe like a 15 to 20 minute to talk about Wolves Magic. And then I'll be back Monday with, I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff I referenced earlier in terms of either the Ant playmaking thing or some of the Gobert stuff we talked about. So we'll do that on Monday's show. A big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. A reminder, if you haven't already signed up, and if you never miss an episode, check out the Everydayer Club. It's built just for you. Get Locked On Wolves ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonwolves.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we'll send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel right after this episode. If you're listening on audio, make sure that you make your second listen the NBA Game Night Show over at Locked On NBA. Of course, Locked On Wolves is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.